what was life like for you growing up as a child?
Well, I started off on the east side of Columbus. I Middle class neighborhood. I grew up in the most wonderful neighborhood. It was kind of over on in the Livermore, Berwick, Bexley area. Started off in Columbus City Schools and ended up at Christ the King, which is no longer, I think it's Ascension or something. I don't even know. All Saints, I don't even know. But then I went on to Bishop Hartley, and I'm sure you heard that because, my cousin went there as well. I graduated from there. Um, then I went into the military. So I did some time in the Army, which is where I also
Okay.
met my husband, uh, and went on to Ohio State.
Okay. Growing up, did you what were some of your hobbies, interests, things like that? I mean, and I know we'll get to it, but
Yeah, I was a
you
swimmer mostly. I mean, I played sports in high school. I field hockey. I was mostly swimming. I mean, I was a swimmer. I didn't like track, but I loved doing hurdles. So I only did hurdles, and then whenever the coach was looking, I made him think I was running. So very short distance and hurdling is all I liked, but definitely was a swimmer because you didn't have to run. And field hockey was great because I was distracted and I loved taking out girls' ankles. So I did have that. So causing bruises on people's ankles was kind of fun. So I did
the
that. So that was fun.
the the competitive spirit, I love
Did have,
it.
did have a little bit of that.
So then you mentioned that after high school, did you go into the army first and
I
then
went into the
OSU?
army. Yes, I went into the military and I spent 2 years active.
Okay.
And then I came back and went to OSU and got my degree. I
What
got an education.
what was army always the plan, or
No, actually, I had a boyfriend that told me women did not belong in the military.
hmm,
So sometimes that's all you have to say to me. When people tell me something shouldn't be a certain way, I mean, if that kind of tells you that you can't do it. And the funny part was he was like on a split option kind of National Guard thing. And when I got to my MOS, which was in Indiana, Fort Benjamin Harrison, we were both in the JAG section. And I walked into my class from the active duty. He was in there. And if, he didn't speak to me, he pretended he didn't know me. But it was funny because I kind of beat him out on everything. So I played along like we didn't know each other. But
oh
it
my
was
gosh,
kind of fun. So yeah,
that's that's so interesting. That it's always interesting when someone's like that, right? Like, hey, if you say I can't do it, I'm just going to go and prove you wrong.
yeah, I did
And
that.
that's a big decision, right? I mean, that's a big thing to say. Hey, I'm going to go prove you wrong in this.
I never would have thought that I would go military. My parents both said, we thought your brother might do this. But I just went and signed papers, is kind of how it went. I mean, he said women don't belong there. And I said, huh. And I got the papers and I gave them to him for Christmas. He gave me a necklace. I gave him papers. He broke up with me. He said, women don't do that. And I said, okay. So I went in the military and it was the best decision I ever made.
Oh man, that's such a wild story. And it's interesting because as I've interviewed agents on here, usually there's always something that happens early on in someone's career and life that has a big impact on their career and just how decisions like that end up to where we currently are. So get out of the army and go to Ohio State. What did you focus on there as far as school and studies?
Education. I kind of like didn't know what I wanted to do. At first, I was planning on going to law school. And
Hmm.
so that was kind of my whole focus of getting into something that was in law. So I started off political science, boring. And then I started doing education classes, which it was okay. My mom kept saying, well, you want to teach, then you have summers off with kids. And that was kind of like, but I still wanted to go to law school. So I started off as an English major because that would at least I could. And then I actually decided to maybe teach and then go to law school. And I loved it. I really did
Hmm.
like teaching. I loved high school.
Hmm.
And even though I was in an elementary my first year, because I knew my principal from grade school got me a job and I liked it. So I did it. I decided just to stay there and teach. And then I just got my administrative license and just kept going back to school. I never stopped going to school.
what is it about school? Because there's no way I'm going back. What?
I loved going to see. I'm one of those people that I just crave knowledge. I
Uh,
really do. And when people tell me you can't do something, I wanted to keep going upward. Like
mm-hmm,
I've always told him when I started, I did a lot of training with teachers. And when I did that, I always told them never do a lateral move with your education. Never go lateral,
mm,
always go upward. So I knew a lot of teachers that would say, well, I'm in special ed and I think I'll just get my special ed master's. And I'm like, never. You already have special
mm.
ed degree. Get your administrative, get your guidance counselor, get something, get a business. Always get something that moves you up, never lateral, because it
How
doesn't do
did
you any good.
I mean, is that something that you were? I mean, is your family? Do they have that sort of background, or is that just something
No
that you just naturally had?
drive. I don't know what it was. Always felt like I had to only depend on me.
Mm,
I mean, my mom, she got her degree and she got a master's degree. My dad, I remember when I was a kid coming home in third grade and we had to write an essay about what do your parents do for a living. And I said, well, my mom's a teacher in Columbus. I knew that because she was always around the school. And my dad, he plays cards and he is a golfer. He does that professionally. And I knew he had that's what his job was. And my mom's like, no, he sells insurance. I didn't know that. I mean, I thought he played golf and he liked to play cards, and I thought that was his job.
yeah,
And he was a great guy, but I only
yeah,
knew that's what he did. He played golf all the time.
yeah. No, that's. I mean, hey, networking, right? I mean, I'm sure
Well, I
that's
guess
part of it.
you know, he liked to do, and he hated insurance. And I knew that he hated his job then as I got older. And I
Yeah,
never wanted to be that. I never wanted to settle.
yeah,
I just didn't want to settle. My mom settled, and my dad settled, and I didn't want to
yeah.
be that person who just settled.
Yeah, there's so many people I think that settle, and I think the grower mentality, that you have has probably truly helped you in the real estate business, right? I mean, and we'll touch on the real estate career here in a second, but real estate's ever changing, right? You can't go lateral, right? Like you're either growing or you're dying in this business. And I
Yeah.
truly believe that. And I truly believe that's life too.
Yeah.
I'm not, when you said I always love seeking, information and knowledge and things like that. Like to me, that wasn't school, but to me, that's books, that's podcasts,
Mhm.
that's conferences, that's, masterminds, those types of things. That's what I do.